going on, fight fans? So we have the numbers extrapolated. Now, I know you guys are going to say, wait a second. I'm not even going to watch this video. I'm just going to go on the comments and say, now, how you don't know the numbers yet. So this is all cap. Yeah, we extrapolate the numbers, and we've been incredibly accurate up until now. So we're still accurate. There's not been one where it's shown to be inaccurate, but we extrapolate the numbers right after the pay-per-view, looking at all of the engagement numbers and using that to formulate what it would more than likely be on pay-per-view based off of the interest before the fight kicked off. Remember, any piece of content that comes out after the fight did not sell the fight. A lot of people, I see this, I think like a video, or not a video, a clip of, or something being posted on Twitter where they're saying, oh, this did 750,000 pay-per-views, and people are writing, oh yeah, because Berlanga actually came to fight, and nothing that happens in the fight will determine the pay-per-view numbers. You have to understand that, because no one can go into the future, see that it's a good fight, and then go back into the past or then go back into the present and purchase the fight. If something ends up becoming a good fight, right? Like something is like an amazing fight. Like, this is crazy, and nobody expected that. What ends up happening is a lot of the post-fight content gets a lot of views, and people look at that and say, oh, there's a lot of interest in it. However, that didn't sell the fight because that happened after the fact. Didn't sell the fight. So you can't use that. So people that are saying, yeah, it's because Berlanga came to fight and he gave a good effort of himself, so that's why this 750,000 is one of the most ridiculous arguments. I also don't agree with the 750,000 pay-per-view buys based off of the engagement before the event kicked off. Now, quickly, I was at the fight. I was at the T-Mobile Arena. It was an amazing night of fights. The only one that was like a super stinker was the Danny Garcia and Erislandy Lara fight. Danny Garcia just looks super out of it, like he didn't care to be there. I don't know, man. He was knocked down for the first time in his career off of something that looked so simplistic, from a person who's not considered a big puncher. So just very bizarre all around, right? And then quit on his stool from the first knockdown. That wasn't even super devastating. It's like he just took a knee. Whatever, man, whatever. But in my opinion, Caleb Plant versus Magumbi, that stole the show. That was an amazing fight. Caleb Plant had to adjust because he was getting like Magumbi was doing his thing, man, in the beginning, and like taunting and doing whatever he wanted, and Caleb Plant had to adjust to it. He did adjust, and then he was having the fun. And they were both taunting each other, but Caleb was getting the upper hand. And of course, the uppercut. Once Caleb introduced the uppercut, Magumbi had no answers for that uppercut, and it was just a beauty to watch. And then, of course, he gets the stoppage at the end. What a fight, man. That was such an amazing fight. And watching it live with the excitement, with the energy of the crowd was incredible. All right, so quickly, just jumping into the Canelo versus Caleb Plant fight. Canelo versus Caleb Plant, that's throwback. Canelo versus Berlanga fight. The entire T-Mobile Arena was 100% sold out. There was not one seat. I literally looked around during the main event, right before the main event started, and not one seat was available. So those prices for those seats were super high. So for him to still generate that amount of interest, even though he was also competing with a UFC event, that was fighting at the Sphere, and that is unique in and of itself, right? Because that whole Sphere thing was just like crazy. So you couple all of that stuff, and it was a tough promotional battle for this fight, considering also Berlanga is not a household name, but he is Puerto Rican, and this is a Puerto Rican versus Mexican clash. The fight went somewhat the way I thought it would. It looked like Berlanga was out of his depth. He was nowhere near the level of Canelo. but he never stopped wanting to win. He never stopped trying. It just wasn't enough because he doesn't have the tools to deal with Canelo. From the beginning to the end, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, he did amazing. He did what he could do. To me, the amazing is that he never stopped trying, because most people just don't even try, right? Jermell, he didn't even try, right? We know that Jermell knew he wasn't at the level of Canelo, and then he moved according to that. Berlanga knew he wasn't at the level of Canelo, but he tried to fight through that and still come out victorious. So that's the energy that I got from Berlanga. Was it enough to make it like an awesome, amazing fight? No, especially since that Caleb Plant fight was just so good, right? So no, it wasn't enough. But that knockdown, that moment when he dropped him, the crowd we just exploded. It was super, super fun. Super fun to be in the fight atmosphere. All right. Now, right, let's talk about the pay-per-view numbers. So looking at all of the numbers, looking at all of the weigh-in numbers, looking at the hashtags used that day and how much it was used on both Twitter and all the other social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube, the press conference numbers, the 24/7 episode thing. I think Gloves Off is the new thing for PBC, where that what are the numbers that those things are doing, looking at all the pre-fight excitement, how much are people trying to engage with this fight, because this is what will let us know how much it does on pay-per-view. Looking at all of those things, the fight did between 300,000 to 500,000 pay-per-views buys. We're gonna drop it at 400,000 for the average between both of these things, but so basically from 3 to 500,000, 400,000 being the average, which makes this fight actually have less numbers than the Jaime Munguia versus Canelo fight, if this is the case, if these are the pay-per-view numbers. Granted, we do not know for sure that these are the pay-per-view numbers, but I am looking at the pre-fight data, and that's the number where this falls based off of the pre-fight data. About 400,000 pay-per-view buys. This makes sense considering who Berlanga was. He wasn't that well known. And we haven't really had this Mexican-Puerto Rican clash happen in a while, right? We haven't had it happen in such a good amount of time, and it's not like he's a Miguel Cotto, who's a household name, right? People who aren't even Puerto Rican would care to watch a Miguel Cotto because it's just Miguel Cotto. Berlanga has not reached those heights. I do believe that Berlanga's stock has gone up after this fight, but I don't believe that he had enough to even make Canelo have more pay-per-view buys than his fight with Jaime Munguia. Hopefully, this makes Canelo understand that the next steps are important, and hopefully what he does next is he fights Benavidez or he fights Terence Crawford. Either one, Benavidez being the one that I want more than all the others. But he needs to fight someone that people know, that there's a household name to that fighter, even to some degree, right? Because Berlanga wasn't even at the level, not even close to the level of Crawford. So imagine if he fights Crawford, if he could still pull around 400,000 pay-per-views with Berlanga. So Canelo is definitely the face of boxing. For him to fight Berlanga and do 400,000 pay-per-views, and Tank to fight Frank Martin and do 300,000 pay-per-views, Canelo is still the face of boxing, in my opinion. He also fought Jaime Munguia and did 500,000 pay-per-views. So yeah, Canelo is still the face of boxing. The fight with Tank versus Ryan was an anomaly to some degree, unless Tank finds another dance partner at the capacity of Ryan Garcia. We're not going to be seeing him beat Canelo. However, Tank is the second guy behind Canelo in terms of pay-per-view stars. But Canelo is clearly the face of boxing. And of course, we're going to have to wait for these numbers to be actually presented. But right now, looking at all of the stuff, and by the way, that little picture that came out saying, oh, it's possibly 750,000 pay-per-views, they said based on rumors. Based on rumors, there's no way from the internal source that they even know the pay-per-view numbers just yet. So there's no way to get that information. So for them to the next day have rumors of 750,000 pay-per-views, that's impossible. It takes a lot. They could have an estimated guess as to what they're gonna see based off the velocity of the numbers coming in every time they're getting an update on these numbers. But to say 750,000 as a rumor, that doesn't make any sense. Here, we don't do it as rumors. What we do is we use the data to try to extrapolate the number. So we could, in fact, be wrong. However, we have not been wrong because usually the numbers don't lie. If 100,000 people watch a weigh-in, right, and like that should tell you, oh, 100,000 people watch the weigh-in. There's not that much super interest in it right now. The 100,000 people don't necessarily represent everybody who's going to watch the pay-per-view, right? You might not watch the weigh-in and still watch the pay-per-view. So it's not a 1-for-1. That's not how we do it here. We look at it and we compare it to other pay-per-views and what were the general numbers that came out of those pay-per-views based off of what they did, the numbers they had off of their stuff. And then we compare and contrast it and come up with a number. So it's not like we're just pulling the number from thin air or it's a rumor. It's being extrapolated from the data of the pre-fight content. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We have it falling at around 400,000 pay-per-views. To be more accurate, anywhere from 300,000 to about 500,000 pay-per-view, but with the average being 400,000 pay-per-view buys, which is actually pretty good versus a Berlanga, to be quite honest, if I'm being honest with you guys. Anyways, until the next one, peace out.